Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to look at methods that return dictionaries. Returning a dictionary is exactly the same as returning an integer or a list, or as we'll look at later on, a tuple. To return a dictionary, the only thing we have to do is say return and then the dictionary that we want to return, and a method can do that. In this section, the app we're creating is one that will allow us to create new students and give them a set of marks, and then will let us calculate the average mark of one of the students. Reasonably simple program, but it'll be essential for later on, such as dictionaries being one of them. What I'm going to start with in this video is with a method that will allow us to create a new student dictionary. This means that it's going to ask the user for the student's name, and it's going to create this dictionary that contains a list of marks, which will initially be empty, and then it's going to return that. Let's walk through that. As we know, we can create a method with the def keyword, and then we give it the name, and then we give it the opening and closing bracket, and that tells Python that this is a method. And inside the method, we can put some code, and as we know, when we execute or call the method, the code inside will run from top to bottom. And this method is going to ask the user for the student's name, and then it's going to create the dictionary in the format. Name is going to be the student name, and marks is going to be a list, and then it's going to return that dictionary. Also, whenever you have a method that doesn't do anything or doesn't do anything yet, you can just use pass as a placeholder, and Python accepts that. If you don't type anything, then Python tells you, hey, this method has no body, even though it's got a few comments. Comments don't count, as we know, and then it says that it expects there to be something there. So you can just use pass, and that's fine, or we can indeed implement it. Now, you can already ask the user for a name. You know how to do that, and you can certainly create a dictionary. I mean, we've done it up here. It's going to be name, and then the student's name, which the user is going to give you, and then it's going to be marks, remember the comma, and an empty list, and then it's going to return that dictionary. I think you can do all of those things. So go ahead and pause the video, and then come back once you've attempted that. Okay, now that you've tried that, let's go ahead and do it here. The first thing we want to do is to say name is going to be input. Please enter the new student's name. And we've used this plenty of times before. Input takes in a string, and the string is what gets printed out, and the user can then start typing at the end of the string. And then here we would expect the name of the new student, and then we're going to use that name inside our dictionary. I'm going to create student data, or student data, depending on where you're from, and this is going to be name is name, and remember, name inside quotation marks is the string, the literal representation of these symbols, N, A, M, and E, and name without the quotation marks is a variable which we have defined up here. Remember, if we do not define a variable called name, for example, I call it names, then Python gives me an error because it cannot find name. So it has to match exactly, but it can be anything you want. And finally, marks, which is going to be an empty list. And we know that this is how we can create an empty list. And this is a list with 0 elements, but definitely could have elements here if we wanted, but it doesn't make sense when we're creating a student for the student to already have a set of marks. So we just put an empty list in there. And finally, we can return the student data. And now I'm going to delete the comments, and the reason why I'm deleting the comments is because it's really easy just from the code to understand what this method is doing. It's asking for a name, Then it's creating a dictionary that contains that name and a set of marks, and then it's returning that. It doesn't really need any extra explanation. And if we leave the extra explanation here, and then next week we come back and change something, because it is a comment and it doesn't run and it doesn't cause errors, we may forget to update the comment with the new info, the new things that we've written in the method. And if we do that, then this would suddenly lose a lot of value, and it would indeed become confusing because the comments would be saying one thing and the code would be saying something different. So if not necessary, let's remove the comment, and I don't think it is necessary. The method is called createStudent. It asks for a name, it puts it in a dictionary, and then returns that. I think it's fairly obvious what is going on in this method. Now that we've got the method to create a student, we can run the thing and see what happens. Remember, because the method is defined above, we need to put the print statement below it. And I'm going to just call print of createStudent. The createStudent call is going to happen first. We're going to jump from here up here, and we're going to get asked to enter the name. Then we're going to create a dictionary and return that. So what we're going to be printing is the student data that we've created. Okay, let's press play up here. And notice how we get asked to enter the student's name. So I'm going to put my name, and then what we get out, what we get printed, is this dictionary that we have created. I would always recommend you do this process of creating a small method that does something and then printing it out to make sure that it works the way you expect. This is something that you should get accustomed to doing, testing things out as you go. Now that we've got that ready, however, we're ready to move on to the next set of functionality, which is going to allow us to add more marks in here, because naturally an empty list isn't very useful. In the next video, we're going to be appending things to that list. I'll see you there.